his. How about yours? If you see it, you're responsible. Responsibility is a thing that will bring honor in our own lives. That we can look at ourselves and we don't have to look at others and say, well, somebody did this or somebody did. Can I tell you something? It's good to have a job. Not Job, job. It's not a dirty word. Work. And when you work, God says to work not just for you. Well, I'm going to get me a new boat. I'm going to get me a new car. I'm going to get me a new... No, the Bible says in Ephesians chapter 4, it says to work so you have money to give. Wow. Responsibility. Responsibility is the only way to bring maturity. Oh, well, I want to give my kids everything. You're going to spoil them, and they won't be worth anything. Teach them how to be responsible. Last three things. Relationship. Learn how to be in relationship. To be in a relationship, you have to relate to people. Boy, that was so hard and but so simple it went right past you. I have people come to me sometimes and they ask me questions or even about themselves. I just don't understand it. I've been in the hospital and nobody's come see me. Oh, my father, my mother, or somebody else, they've died and look, nobody came to the funeral. You know, I've been in this thing a long time. You know what I've learned? Those people that give it away get it back. And those people that never give it away never get it. Can I tell you something? When I go to a funeral and I see it packed, I know something. This person's been to a few funerals himself or herself. They've been there when people are hurting and needing. And why? Because they reach out to others, so they've got it back themselves. And people come to see them in the hospital all the time. Why? Because they were the ones that came to see people in the hospital. Are you listening to me? It's called relationship. Well, my wife don't act right. Well, why don't you start acting right? And you'll be amazed how much your wife will change. Thank you, Kurt. You get some points when you get home. Same with wives. My husband don't act. Well, why don't you? I had a lady come to me and said, oh, I want you to pray for my husband. I want him to get saved. And you know what it really means is I want him to act the way I want him to act. I'm a real preacher. Don't come ask me no question if you don't want no answers. I said, I want to ask you something. You get up with him in the morning when he goes to work? No. Oh, no. I sleep late. I can't do that. Do you make him a biscuit before he gets on the work and get him good breakfast? Oh, no. Oh, I don't have time for that. I'm tired. When's the last time you bedded him? Oh, well, he's a sorry. I don't even want to see him. Can I tell you something? If you honor him, no matter what, if you honor him, something starts changing on the inside. You know, we have this thing inside of us that we live up to what we think we are, or we live down to what we think we're not. It's called relationship. And relationship starts first with God and then with us. When I have a right relationship with God, I can't have a wrong relationship with you. Let me say that again so you get it. I can't. Because see, if I do, people say, aren't you mad at so-and-so? I can't. I want to be, but I can't. And God's changing me. He's giving us grace and He's helping me out. You know why? Because I can't afford to be mad at that person. Because you know what it does? Immediately it changes my relationship with God. So I'm going to tell you, I love you, but I don't love you enough to change my relationship with, not love you enough to change my relationship with God. Because God's told me to love you just like I love Him. And you know what I have to do? I have to go back to the reverence part. Hey, God, I got to have some help. And when we do, He gives it to us. Relationship. You know, our whole country, it seems, is going down the tubes. And you know what it all deals with? Relationship. Our relationship with God and our relationship to each other. You can't do it by yourself. yourself. He created you for relationship. The third thing, reward. Reward. I tell you, like I say, I look at the things happening sometimes and it boggles my mind, okay? What is the thing about wealth redistribution? Well, you're a Christian. You're supposed to believe in that. No, I don't, because God don't believe in it. Have you read the book? God's a God of production, and He came and gave each one He didn't give them the same. He gave 2 to 1. He gave 5. And that poor old thing just got 1. You know the one he got the most? The one who had the 1 and didn't use it. Are you listening to me? When you use what you got, you'll get some more. When you use what you got, you'll get some more. I've read and rereading, and I'm going to tell you, listen, I don't mind. I'm going to endorse a candidate. I want you to vote for Ben Carson. I'm going to tell you, I read the guy, and I just can't get away from it. He grew up in poverty. I mean, terrible poverty in the whole thing. But you know what? He learned something. His mother taught him some things. You know what he taught? He said, first of all, God is first in your life. The man reads chapter in Proverbs every day because he wants the wisdom of God working in his life. He's done that all of his life. The second thing his mama taught him, read. Read. Learn, son, the rest of your life. God gave you, I got a book, it's called God Gave You a Brain. Wonderful book. Good for teenagers. That'd be a good one to give teenagers. God gave you a brain. And the third thing, work hard and you'll succeed. You know what he talks about? He doesn't talk about getting his first handout or getting his first scholarship or all those things. You know what he talks about? He talks about his jobs. When I was in high school, I got a job. Was in college, I got a job. And his job, he lays it out. His job was preparation for where he is today and the success he has. See, reward comes for honoring and work. And then you want people to take away from people who've worked hard all their life, take it away from them and send it home to folks who's sitting there waiting for a check to come in the mail and wouldn't do nothing to help themselves or anybody else. There's something wrong with the picture. Our country was built on reward. The last thing, reformation. I started looking, all of these are ours, and I started looking into this, and it amazed me. It just literally amazed me. And I'm closing with this, but I want you to get it, because this is one of the most important. See, God brings things into our life not only to reform and change us, but to reform and change the world around us, not because we're just preaching it, but because we're living it. This nation, I told you just a minute ago, was born out of Reformation. Reformation, there was a spiritual revival in this nation. But then my interest got up, and I was reading that really the revolution, American Revolution, came out of the First Awakening. And I said, there's been more than one awakening in this nation. What about the others? And so, you know, the internet, it's amazing. It has everything. And I went to Wikipedia, encyclopedias. Now, this is not a religious book. And I looked up the word awakening. And the first thing I came to, it had a whole section on America's spiritual awakening and the First Great Awakening. There's been 4 since then. And it named them. And out of every one of those came a movement that changed and transformed the nation. You know what we need? Another great awakening. I'm just going to get 1930 and 1943 was Jonathan Edwards, George Whitefield, and John Wesley. All were participants in the first awakening that brought freedom to this nation. From 1800 to 1840 was the second Great Awakening. It was known for great fiery preachers. The temperance movement came out of it. The abolitionists came out of it, abolishing slavery. Women's rights came out of it. All of it came out of that revival and brought a civil war that changed and transformed this nation and set black people free. Number three, the Great Awakening in 1850 to 1900s. It brought in denominational churches. It brought in missions movement. It brought in social changes and transformations in the society and the world that we lived in at that time. One of the great evangelists of that time, listen to this, that led into something, D.L. Moody, Dwight L. Moody, one of the greatest evangelists that America has ever known, brought thousands into the kingdom of God, and it was a great awakening during his time. But also it led into the next part of the Great Awakening, which was the Azusa Street revival that touched and changed and transformed the world around us through the Pentecostal movements. Still going on today. And then from 1960 to 1980s, we had the Charismatic Awakening. It was considered the fourth Great Awakening. I didn't do it. It's in the encyclopedia. They're thinking. And during this Great Awakening time, there was tremendous move of God in the places. And one of the things, the characteristics that happened was that, first of all, great teaching was set out. What did David do before he left? He said, Solomon, I've written all this stuff down for you. I'm telling you how to do it, where to put it in place. Teachers came there. Why? So they could show people how to live. That's what happened during this awakening. It was known for Kenneth Hagin, Kenneth Copeland. It was known for John Wimber. It was known for Catherine Kuhlman. It was known for all these people who came and deposited something that changed and transformed this nation. Out of that was birthed the civil rights movement that changed and transformed a whole nation. And last one, there's actually been a fifth. They consider a fifth Great Awakening. It started from 1995 to the year 2000. It started, everything I'm reading to you came out of the encyclopedia, not out of Christian books, out of the encyclopedia. And they say that this Great Awakening came from two places: Toronto, Canada. The Toronto, they named it there, it's called the Toronto Blessing. And the second from Brownsville, Pensacola, the Pensacola Revival. They don't know how many people from around the world have been through the Toronto church up there, which, by the way, is still going on today. Pensacola Revival is not, but that one is. In Toronto is still going on today. But in Pensacola, Florida, they started keeping records, and they found that during that time period, over 4 million people came through their doors through all the countries of the world. 4 million. It's not a big, probably about like this in the whole deal. But God used it to change and transform nations in the world. Can I tell you something? When you look around you, don't say, it's so bad, it can never change. And I've heard this one. Oh, but it's the law of the land because the court says so. Can I just challenge you to go look? Look. Rulings of the Supreme Courts have been reversed down through history. They can be reversed again. Are you listening to me? God is looking for a people who decide, I believe God is bigger than my circumstances. I believe God is bigger than what's going on in my country. I believe God's bigger than what's going on in my church. God's a big God. I got to quit. I'm going to recommend a book to you. It's called Appeal to Heaven by Dutch Sheets. Dutch is a great intercessor.